everybody. Welcome to the 63rd SongBike Guitar Q&A live stream. 63. Holy cow. My name is Jonathan. I'm here for your questions. In between your questions, we have quite a show ahead of us. Oh, man. And we have a poll question up and running. The poll question of the night is, are you ready to play in front of people? There's the poll question of the night. Options include yes, and maybe you already are playing in front of people. Option number 2, no, you don't feel you're ready. You need more skills. But hold on, listen to the other options. No, you're not ready because you just need the guts. You know how to play the guitar. Emotionally, you're not ready yet. Or option number 4, you're not ready to play in front of people. You need a song. You need a complete thing. You know, you can physically play stuff on the guitar, but maybe that's what's holding you back. You need that at least one thing you can play all the way through. So those are 4 options. Hopefully you fall into one of those categories. So go ahead and vote. We got a whole bunch of people watching already. We got a bunch of votes coming in. I'm very, very curious as to your responses. In between your questions today, here's what's on the agenda. We're going to talk about your bad guitar habits. Why do people take lessons? They don't want bad habits. Why do people listen to jokers like me? They don't want bad habits. Let's talk about your bad habits. I know what they are. Believe me, I know. You should never play electric guitar. What? We'll talk about that. What an outrageous thing to say. Other topics include the secret guitar history of the classic recording Hound Dog, not Elvis's version, the original version, Big Mama Thornton, featuring Pete Lewis on the guitar. What's up with the guitar track on that tune? Kind of interesting little story that I just learned myself. A couple of good quotes from interesting people. One quote tonight from Warren Haynes. Among many things on his resume is his stint with the Allman Brothers. But Warren Haynes had a very interesting quote that I came across. How about a quote from novelist Anais Nin? You know her, right? Of course you do. She had an interesting quote about music that I thought I'd share with you guys. I have a dumb question of the night to share with you. More products are being offered to me. So in this segment that we call Should I Sell Out, I'm going to share with you a few of the most recent offers of products that somebody wants me to pitch to you. I have a student quote of the week. We're going to talk about Stairway to Heaven. There are 2 things that we didn't do last week. Another segment of the song Stairway to Heaven. We're going to get into that hopefully very soon tonight. And also chord royalty involving dominant 7th chords. And we're going to sneak in some major 7s as well. It's going to be a lesson about physical stuff on the guitar, but we'll get into a little bit of the music theory too, which I think you'll find interesting. As usual, I'm going to plug some of the coolest musicians on YouTube and put links to their YouTube videos in the description of this video. We have a play-along song of the night. I can't wait to do this one. A great song that I realized with a little tweaking is going to be easy for all of us to play. So we're going to learn the song, we're going to play it, and then we'll take a couple minutes and talk about how I modified it to make it easier for us to play. A little tiny bit of music theory in there as well, but nothing you can't handle. So there's even more. I got more on the list, but let's leave it at that for the moment. So plenty for us to talk about. If we get through all that stuff, I have something from the blues, the free blues guide to show you, the blues guide that you can get for free from my website, www.song-bike.com. I finally finished recording all the videos and writing all the songs for my Chord-Melody book. So really now it's the fun part. Just actually, it's all fun, to be honest. But you know, designing the cover, making sure the whole thing is packaged just right. Converting the PDFs to JPEGs or JPEGs, I forget. I got to convert every page. It takes a minute, but the book is done and the video came out great. Ooh, in the video, I used my new LSL guitar and it sounded great. So I'm going to, just for the fun of it, I'll play you a tune from that book. It's the last tune I recorded for the video that goes along with the book, so it's the freshest in my brain. Can't wait to show you that. So lots to do. Number 1 reason I'm here is for your questions. So if and when you have a question, put it in the chat. when you do that, put a bunch of question marks in advance, so I know it's directed towards me. When I review all this stuff, tomorrow morning, sometimes I see questions in the chat that I missed that didn't have question marks in advance, and I feel bad about that. So don't let that be the reason why your question doesn't get answered. Zulosia Zombie, all the way from Poland, has a question. Yes, he says, hey, John, tips for getting started playing chords up the fretboard. I'm mostly using the first 4 frets, and it's hard to get out of the comfort zone. Great question. It's like you're setting me up here. You want to take a chord you're already good at, and then move it up and down the neck to begin the process of getting comfortable. But then you want to pick a song that actually requires you to do that, because it's a lot more fun to practice a song than to just practice a concept, right? I'm going to choose good old D major here. It's super important before we even start this that all 3 notes on the 3 treble strings ring clearly. Okay, so we're not going to name names. We're just going to move this as a formation up the neck. At the moment, the names are not our concern. And depending on whether you're playing acoustic or electric, if you have a cutaway or not, you're going to run out of room at a certain point. That's okay. You're going to notice very quickly that the fret spacing is smaller as you go up. That's fine. You have to, the guitar is not going to change. You have to adapt to it, right? Okay, so you want to just move up the neck for a minute and listen to those 3 sounds. Make sure that as you move up the neck, you're not losing your formation, either sounding weird or muting out a string. The absolute most common thing, by the way, is the ring finger leaning over onto the skinny first string. And you get that sound, right? Okay, now let's have some fun with it. Name this tune. Hold on, D. Goes back a few years. Here it comes again. That sounds an awful lot like what the Beatles do in the song called, now it's not exactly what they do. It's so close that we'll still use it as an example. But and if the Beatles police out there, I'm aware this is not exactly what the Beatles do in the famous song called 8 Days a Week. Okay? So we have a D. And our D, I'm going to refer to our D chord by the fret number 2, because that's where the index finger is. So I'm going to say D formation at 2, which is your basic D chord, right? D formation at 2, 2 strums, add your pinky finger, skinny first string, 3rd fret. You got to tuck it in there and give it 1 more strum. Some of you might know that's known as a D suspended 4 chord. And finally, a strum back on the D chord. So we have D, D, D suspended, D. Okay? Second thing, take that D formation, move it until your index is on the 4th fret. I just moved it up 2 frets. Same riff. I'm only strumming the 3 treble strings. So D with the index up the 4th fret, move that up 3 frets. Now we have the D formation with the index at the 7th fret. Same strumming pattern, right? I'm doing all downstrokes, by the way. And then as smooth and carefully as you can, zip back to the original D chord. You put it all together, slow motion. Okay, and that's one way to play the classic riff from 8 Days a Week by the Beatles. Hopefully this is one easy way to get out of your comfort zone and move up the neck, right? With a familiar chord. By the way, everything you've ever seen someone do up the neck, chances are it's something they learned back in their comfort zone and they moved it up the neck, just like I did with that D major chord. The guitar is not a new instrument up here, right? You're working with all the same concepts, whether it's a chord formation, a scale, you name it. But I get it. Going up the neck, it's like like Zulogia said, you're out of your comfort zone. I call it the deep end of the pool, right? This is the, you're swimming and you want to be not too far from the edge. You can grab onto the edge of the swimming pool just in case, right? So in effect, the first couple frets, that's the edge of the pool. You got that comfort zone. As soon as you get up here, ooh, like I always say, though, you paid for the whole guitar. You might as well use it. Okay, so D is a great one for moving up the neck. The last few live streams, not number 62, but number 61 and 60, I believe, we talked about chord royalty. And one of them was, number 60 was major chords up and down the neck. And number 61, live stream 61, was minor chords up and down the neck. We didn't get around to it last live stream, but today is going to be 7th chords up and down the neck. I always like to connect a concept with an actual song. You guys know that about me. So I'm happy to tell someone in principle, the D major grip goes up and down the neck, and there you go. Now you know how to play one chord up the neck. I could say the same thing for an E minor chord. The E minor chord involves the 3 open treble strings, right? 0, 0, 0. So you take one finger. If 0, 0, 0 is an E minor chord on the 3 treble strings, and it is, then 1, 1, 1 is a legitimate chord. That's an F minor. And I can show you all this stuff, and you guys would do great. There's nothing like having a real song that uses this, right? Because it makes it more fun and it makes it real, right? It's not just stuff that's, in principle. And there's plenty of examples out there. And 8 days a week is the first one that comes to mind to me. So I'll leave it at that for right now, but I have, I think I have a couple of videos on up the neck chords on my YouTube channel. What's that tune? I'm not sure if I'm playing exactly right. This is a little newer than 8 days a week, but this is still an old tune. I don't think I'm playing it exactly right. What's that song? By Weezer? It's in that ballpark. It's another example of a song that uses some kind of not very risky chords up the neck. But it's another one that comes to mind as a song that's built on little up the neck chords. That riff is built on up the neck chords. I probably have a video on how to play Island in the Sun by Weezer. I heard it on the radio a couple of days ago, and I thought, oh yeah, there's that tune from the 90s that had that little guitar riff. This is what guitar teachers think about when you're in the supermarket just getting cat food, and you're like, oh yeah, I should get that song back in rotation. You never know what songs connect with people. We got 36 of you watching. A certain percent of you heard that riff. You're like, oh, Island in the Sun. I love that song. And that's why teachers like me have to have it handy, because you never know who's going to connect with it. And then we talk about the physical challenge of it. We talk about the music theory and so on. Okay, so Zulogia, I hope I kind of gave you an idea to work with. I know we only talked about that one song, but 8 days a week. But Island in the Sun is another one. There's a song I'm dying to show you guys. It's not a super popular song. It's from the last 5 or 10 years. Can't be 10 years. But it's got a great guitar riff, kind of like the Island in the Sun thing. And I love the song for lots of reasons. So sooner or later, it'll be our guitar play along song of the week. So, but great question. And thank you, Zulogia Zombie. William Collier says, Jonathan, what is your favorite genre of guitar music to play, teach, and why? My favorite, well, there's all sorts of music that I love. Tough one. My teaching is so oriented to whoever's sitting in front of me or next to me, in the music studio. So my favorite thing is whatever song is really connecting with the student I'm teaching. If you know what I mean, that's like, oh, and it could be Island in the Sun. It could be, let's see, what did I do today? I did I taught about six students today. And by request, we did what was that song? I just never know what a student is going to ask about. Anyways, but in terms of my favorite stuff to actually teach, oh man, well, God, it's a great question. Well, let's start with what I don't teach. I'm not a shredder, which you guys might have figured out by the 63rd live stream. All that insane, fast shredding stuff. I respect people who put in the time and made that what they do. It's just not my thing. So I guess I would say that's not my favorite thing. A student one time really wanted to work on Eruption by Eddie Van Halen. And I've never put time into that song. And that was a weird series of lessons. We were working from some tab and I was guiding him note by note, but I was out of my comfort zone, So, shredding kind of stuff, certain types of heavy metal guitar just not my specialty. I might even kind of like it, but just not my specialty. I think Eddie Van Halen and Van Halen songs are great songs, just not my specialty. So what do I like? Any kind of blues guitar, acoustic finger picking, any kind of acoustic finger picking. I love, I don't know, Bill, it's a great question. I love when we can take a song with a student and there's enough meat on the bone, so to speak, that we can talk about the physical skills, some interesting music theory. I mean, you can talk about music theory with any song, but maybe the song has some interesting music theory to dig into. You can't go wrong with the Beatles, I tell you what, there's a time in the early 2000s where I would find myself in a lesson with a student holding up their phone and the song that they want them to learn, from the phone, they're playing for me, is the guitar is so distorted and the mix is so kind of compressed and distorted anyways, and it's coming out of a phone speaker, which is what, I don't even know how small a phone speaker is. And he's saying, hey, can we learn this guitar part? And to me, it just sounded like just a weird buzz. And the combination of the actual guitar sound and the phone, I was like, that was one of my least favorite lessons, right? They're like, I don't know what this person's doing. I can't even, doesn't mean that the guitar player doesn't have some talent, but that was one of my low points as a teacher, just realizing I don't even know what key the song is in. I think it was one of those, I reached my limit, I felt bad because, I'm here to help. So Bill, I don't know if I'm answering your question too well. Because of the nature of my job or how I conceive of my job, I don't get to play favorites exactly most of the time. I mean, I'm sure I have my biases, but most of the time, I'm reacting to where the student is at. But being the age I am, I mean, I'm sure I teach a lot of Beatles and classic rock and stuff from the 60s and 70s in general. And I'm sure my teaching has less and less and less that represents the 90s and the 2000s and so on. But I always keep my ears open. I hope that answered your question a little bit. Recently, I'll tell you what my favorite thing recently is to do is the physical left-hand challenges, arpeggios, different types of scales. That I could do that for a whole lesson with a student if I thought they had the patience for that, and not even play a song. Just like, hey man, let's do this scale, let's do this arpeggio, let's, that's just where my head is at the moment. Beginner Guitar Lessons is here. He is our moderator. Hey, Beginner Guitar Lessons, thank you for being here. Bruce, all the way from Sydney, Australia. Bruce has a question. Bruce says, can you talk about taking finger picking to a higher level? I can do basic patterns, okay, but what makes finger picking, excellent question, what makes finger picking sound more advanced? Oh, you guys ask such good questions. You use the magic word patterns. Because I I was scared of finger picking, or in awe. I was overwhelmed by the idea of finger picking as a beginner guitar player. I couldn't imagine where to even begin. And so when I finally did begin, I began on chapter 4 instead of on chapter 1, if you know what I mean. And I stuck with it, and I mastered chapter 4, but I should have started at chapter 1. I didn't know, you know. So finger picking, in a nutshell, it all starts with as many repetitive patterns as you can stand. And the reason I put it that way is patterns might not sound like anything. This sounds nice, right? Especially when I start changing chords. But it's not a specific song, and you or the people around you in your life might say, hey, when are you going to play a song? Meanwhile, you might learn 4 patterns, 7 patterns, 22 patterns. That's a good thing. You're getting both of your hands comfortable with this. Obviously, your picking hand has to learn a bunch of new skills. And even though finger picking uses the same chords, G, A minor, all that kind of stuff, your fretting hand is more in the spotlight than ever, because finger picking reveals every little buzzy note. I'm going to do this intentionally on an A minor chord. Hear that? Strumming, banging out songs with a pick, singing at the top of your voice, that hides a lot of stuff. Finger picking, all of a sudden, anything that's not a perfect about a chord, for example, is exposed instantly. So bottom line is you start with patterns and then you move to the next thing. Okay, so what's the next thing? The next type of picking, which in general, a lot of people call Travis picking. So let's go with that term, Travis picking. You are both the accompanist and the lead guitar player at the same time. And teachers like me often start people off with that song, Freight Train. If I play this correctly, you're going to hear the melody of Freight Train. There we go. Freight train, run so fast. But you'll also hear this nice accompaniment in the background, kind of like the sound of 2 musicians playing at once. Okay, so no singing necessary, right? If you knew the song Freight Train, if someone's familiar with that song, they'd say, oh, I recognize Freight Train, run so fast. And they also hear this satisfying background, which is largely the alternating thumb and occasionally another finger throwing in another filler note. Sounds like 2 musicians playing at once, you know? That's the next step. When I said I went to chapter 4 first, I started doing songs like that, or one song like that, having 0 experience. I had no experience doing anything with an alternating thumb, like many beginner patterns, you know, involve the thumb bouncing back and forth. I hadn't done any of that. So it was, chapter 4 was kind of hard since I hadn't done chapters 1, 2, and 3. So Bruce, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Travis picking, picking out a melody even while you're doing the accompaniment. And the accompaniment often is just as simple as that thumb bouncing back and forth. So songs that come to mind, Freight Train, good old Elizabeth Cotten is a classic, you know, guitar teacher thing. Give me 1 second. Anything by Mississippi John Hurt. I learned a handful of Mississippi John Hurt. I think the first thing I did in this style, what I'm calling chapter 4, was a Mississippi John Hurt song. A lot of books have, a lot of finger picking books in general include a Mississippi John Hurt song. Sometimes that is the introduction to Travis picking. And I'm sure there's plenty more, but that's the idea. You go from pattern picking to more melodic picking, you know. Hey, and those of you who don't intend to sing along, but you want to play the guitar and sound great, but singing is not your thing, then you definitely want to do this because your guitar is the singer, and no one is waiting for the song to start. I grabbed this book. I'm always coming back to this book because I love it. The Strum Pattern Bible. The final maybe 1/3 of the book is fingerpicking patterns. So I would say this book is a fantastic way to get all those patterns going. So then when you take it to the next level, your hand is comfortable. It's ready to go. 6-note starter patterns, alternating thumb starter patterns, pinch pattern, classic songwriter patterns, simple waltz pattern, advanced waltz pattern, and so on and so on. So the first about 2/3 are famous songs that use really significant pick patterns with a plastic pick. And the final about 1/3 is the same notion, but with bare finger patterns. And everything in the book is specifically based on some famous song. So this is nothing theoretical. It's like, hey, Dust in the Wind, here's a pattern that is a great pattern. And it happens to be employed, in the song Dust in the Wind. But you want to learn the pattern anyways. So why not learn it as part of Dust in the Wind? A couple quick disclaimers. It doesn't teach the entire song. It teaches the heart of the song. It teaches the pattern that you absolutely need to play the song, right? Second disclaimer, this is an electronic book. It doesn't come in the mail. It gets emailed to you instantly. Every once in a while, someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I've been waiting for that book to arrive. It's been a month. So I get it, though. I get it. Should you order almost any book from my website, it will be emailed to you as a PDF instantly. And if you don't get it within a minute or two, check your spam folder or something, or double check to make sure you put in the right email address or something. The only exception, by the way, is this one. Hey, Chris, if Chris is in the chat, Chris just ordered one of these, and this went out to her in New Jersey. This one is a real physical hard copy book that comes to you in the mail. This one looks like a real book because I had it printed out and for my own teaching purposes. Okay, so Bruce, I hope I answered your question. Patterns, which sounds like you've done your groundwork, you've laid a foundation with the patterns, and now you have some ideas for what the next thing is. Of course, patterns can get fancier and fancier, but there's something so satisfying about picking out the melody so the listener knows exactly what you're playing. There's nothing more satisfying than that in the guitar. There's plenty of great stuff on the guitar. There's nothing like that, especially if you are inclined towards finger picking. Anyways, okay. David, I see your question. I want to make sure I didn't miss any question before. Okay. David, I'm reading your question now. Okay, David asks, when playing in a mode, how similar is that to a key change in the song? In other words, would a key change over an instrumental imply playing in a different mode since the scale changes with a key? So if a song changes to a different key, that's a pretty profound change. Means the whole group of chords that was the foundation for, say, the first half of the song, every one of those chords changes for the second half of the song. So that's a pretty huge change. If you were, say, soloing on top of the first half of the song with a specific scale, you definitely would have to change to another scale to solo on top of the second half of the song. Or if you were picking out the melody for the first half of the song, you would have to adjust for the second half of the song. So I hope that is kind of what you're talking about. There's the musical concept called modes, but I don't think that you mean mode the way I mean mode. So David, follow up in the chat and clarify your question. If I just answered your question, great. But if I didn't quite understand, then feel free to add, to clarify a little bit, because I'm happy to do my best to answer your question even more. Since we're talking about modes, just so you know, the official academic definition of what a mode is, or at least here's how I like to describe it, and it's the best way to describe it. A mode is a major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but you don't start on the first note. You play all the notes of the mode, but you start on something other than the first note. Believe it or not, that creates a different vibe. It creates a different sound. You might say, yeah, but it's the same bunch of notes, and it is. But your ear, especially if you keep an open mind, your ear will hear a different message than the message it gets when you hear the classic do, re, mi sound. It helps if there's some background context, like some chords, but your ear can tell you. C major scale, I'm going to go from C to shining C. I'm going to strum a C major chord for good measure. So right now, all of us are in that. I almost said in that mode. Well, technically it is a mode. That's called the Ionian mode. When you play a major scale, just like a major scale, another name for a major scale is the Ionian mode. Okay. I'm going to do that same thing, except I'm not going to play C first. I'm going to pretend that C never happened. I'm going to start on the second note, D, and I'm going to continue on through the scale past the C that I stopped on a minute ago, that high C. I'm going to continue on to the next D note. I'm going to go from D to D. And if you listen closely, it's a little bit of a different vibe. And when I'm done, I'm going to give you a D minor chord. Actually, I'm going to start off with a D minor chord. I'm brainwashing you. I'm saying this is what's significant now. We're in the world of D minor. And here comes the D to D version of the scale. Different vibe, right? Here it comes again. Now, the beautiful thing is I didn't have to learn anything new. I just played a C scale. I just didn't start on C. So a mode is just a major scale with a different starting point, and by definition, then it has a different ending point, right? Instead of C to C, it's D to D, but it's the same group of notes. And especially if you sell it by repeating it, strumming an appropriate chord, in this case, D minor is the appropriate chord, you get the listener thinking a certain way. We could do the same thing going from E to E, F to F, and so on. So that's what a mode is. Okay. David, did that answer your question? Okay, excellent, good. I'm going to say a few hellos. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Michael. Hello, DAC, Poet, Deborah, Joseph, Willie, Live to Fly channel. Who else do I see here in the chat? Pooba John. Hello, Pooba John. Joseph, Randy. Hello, Randy. Scott Rhodes. Hello, Scott. Scott's rocking the Triple O Martin tonight. Excellent. So I always get a kick out of seeing what guitars you guys are grabbing for our live stream here. Michael, I see your question. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Michael says, any good practice patterns you use to work on jumping from 9th fret to 4 to 2 back to 9? In terms of zipping around the neck, I have plenty of ideas. I'm just reading your question carefully. Well, I can give you some tips in general about getting more and more comfortable moving around the neck. You got to have a focus, whether it's a scale, a riff, something from a song. It helps to have something very concrete, right? We don't want to be abstract. And you, based on the exact, nature of your question, 9th fret to 4th and so on, something tells me that you do have something specific in mind. I can tell you what helps me out a lot. Say I'm doing a riff at the 9th fret, like you said, and my first thing is my first jump is back to the 4th fret. As you finish what you're doing up high, you have to start looking at your next destination. You can't finish your riff and then turn your head and say, okay, now where's that 4th fret? You have to be one step ahead. So even as you're playing, I'm just going to make up a little thing here. Even as you're playing, up at the 9th, I'm just making up something at 9 and 11. And I know I'm about to go down to the 4th fret, what I would call 4th position. You got to start looking. I'm still playing right here, but my eyes are right there. I don't know if you can see it. You can see my head turn, right? So now I'm looking at 9s and 11s. And now I'm looking at 4. And I'd already decided I was going to, my destination was going to be 3rd string, 4th fret, the note B right there. G string, 4th fret. Your eyes have to move first. Your fingers rarely will your fingers go to the right spot if your eyes aren't already there. So in general, that's one tip had made a huge difference in my life. When I realized, if I'm looking at my destination, I'll get it 99.9% of the time, especially if I'm moving fast. I don't have time to, there's no space, there's no buffer. I have to get to the new destination fast. And then obviously the same goes if you're playing a lower fret and you have to jump up to 11 or whatever. Got to turn your head. You like literally turn your head, move your eyes, whatever it takes, Sure sounds like something. I'm doing a power chord with my index 9 on the 6th string, then my index 4 on the 6th string, and my index 2 on the 6th string. 9, 4, 2. I mean, it's kind of like that Sweet Jane riff, right? I'm just kind of riffing on the 9-4-2 business. I don't think that's the key for Sweet Jane, but Sweet Jane, right? Lou Reed, Velvet Underground, 9-9-4-2-6-4. I mean, if you want an excuse to jump around between like different frets, there's again a concrete example of a concept. So if the concept is zipping around the neck and getting comfortable with it, we could use Sweet Jane as a vehicle. And again, the chord police don't. I doubt that's the right key of Sweet Jane. I could watch my own video and see. I'm sure I made a video about Sweet Jane, but you know what I'm saying. Let's have some fun with it and get good at moving around with a real song. So. And if that's not the right key, it can be fun to figure out the right key. You have to adjust each one of those chords, right? Maybe instead of starting at 9, maybe you'd have to start at 11 or something. I won't open that whole can of worms right at the moment. So, Michael, those are some of my thoughts about moving around. It always helps to have a specific, song or riff you're working on. I guess my final word is whatever the music is you want to be very conscientious about which finger you're using, especially when you're making the jump, the transition. Be very clear about which finger is the right finger. And then you want to be 100% consistent. Make sure it's that finger every time, right? Muscle memory works so well as long as things are consistent. And you can confuse that part of your brain if sometimes you jump down and your index grab the note, but the next time your middle finger grabs the note. So take some time, decide whatever the right fingers are, and then do it that way every single time, Hey, Winston from Wales. Winston, welcome. Thank you for being here. Okay, Tommy is here as well. Hello, Tommy. You guys, last Saturday, the time got away from me, and that shall not happen. So let's do some playing right now. Let's do part 4 of Stairway to Heaven backwards. Okay, this is going to be just easy enough that you guys can do it, and just hard enough that I hope it is a little bit of a challenge. For the past 4 live streams, let's see, 59, 60, 61. No, 60, 61, 60, 59, 60, and 61. We've been doing different segments of Stairway to Heaven, starting with the ending and moving towards the beginning. Knock on wood, next Saturday, we'll actually do the beginning of Stairway to Heaven. It just happens that the end of Stairway to Heaven is easier than the beginning. So we're learning it backwards. You will have the tools you need to play the entire song, Stairway to Heaven, with the exception of Jimmy Page's guitar solo towards the end. That's beyond the scope of what we do here. But that isn't to say we won't ever do it, but that is not my number one priority. So this is part 4 of Stairway to Heaven. This part, like part 3 alternates with part 4. Like part 3, this part of Stairway to Heaven comes in a little after the 2-minute mark. Between 2 minutes, 14 seconds and 5 minutes, 7 seconds, you absolutely need this. That's just about 3 minutes of Stairway to Heaven. You need to know how to do this right here. And it's not that hard. It does alternate, like I said, with, there we go. It alternates with what we did live stream 61. So you'll be doing both of them back and forth. Okay, just to jog your memory, this is the part of the song that sounds like, I'll play it a couple times and I'll walk you through it. Slowly, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it sounds so great, right? I mean, if it's so melodic, right? And a quick reminder, this is big famous Jimmy Page. What's he doing? He's doing A minors. He's doing Ds, just like you and me, right? It's just more proof that it's all what you do with the basics. It's none of these chords are beyond any of our abilities. Okay, so we're going to do 2 things. Left hand, right hand. We're going to start with the chords up here. I'm going to walk you through those chords. Okay, I realize that it might be a little hard to see, but you know what? I don't know. Me and my Sharpie, I think it's pretty legible, right? And then we'll talk about the exact down, up strumming and all that kind of stuff. Okay, right off the bat, notice there's A minor 7 and A minor 7 with a little star, okay? And then there's E minor, D, and C. And each of those have a little star as well. Just to remind you that it's not your old-fashioned E minor or D or C. It's this new kind, but they're easy. Okay, so A minor 7 without a star. Imagine doing a C chord, just regular old C chord. Take away your ring finger. Okay, they've got 2 fingers down. That is an A minor, but it's not the A minor we want yet. Add your pinky. I strongly recommend doing this with your pinky. Some of you are already reaching for it with your ring finger. Ow, I find that hard, and I don't recommend it for lots of reasons. Okay, pinky, first skinny string, 3rd fret. It's an A minor 7. If you take away that pinky, you're back down to just 2 fingers, and that's the A minor 7 with a star. Okay, D and D suspended. We talked about this with 8 Days a Week earlier. Just a D major chord, that's D. And then add your pinky, first string, 3rd fret. That's a D suspended 4. I'm going to make that official, a D suspended 4 chord. How could I leave off the number 4 right here? Heavens. Okay, there we go. Now, my favorite part, this E minor, D, C, up the neck. In terms of getting out of your comfort zone. Zulogia, was that you talking about playing up the neck chords, getting out of your comfort zone? Or was that you, Bruce? Here's a great excuse to play up the neck chords. Okay, this version of E minor, 3 treble strings, index, 1st string 7, middle finger, 2nd string 8, ring finger, 3rd string 9, 7, 8, 9. I call that nice little diagonal line. So easy, right? You're going to have to get there fast, but the chord itself is easy. It's immediately followed by a D chord. Watch what I'm doing with my index finger. My index finger is just going to glide back to the 5th fret, 1st string. That's significant. You don't want to lift that index finger off. You want to just glide from 7 to 5. Okay, this D chord also requires 7 on the 2nd and 7 on the 3rd. I always do it with my ring and pinky, and every one of my students, almost to a person, does it with their middle and ring. If you insist on it, I can't stop you. To me, it feels so much easier with my middle and my ring and pinky. I don't know how Jimmy Page does it. That's a D chord, 5, 7, 7. That D chord just goes back 2 frets and it becomes that C, 3, 5, 5. So see how that D and that C are the same formation. Okay, so this is the part of the song, starting on the E minor. E minor, D, C, D. My index finger never left the treble string, the 1st string. It was at 7, and then 7, and then 5, and then 3, and then 5. Okay, so that gets you set up for success with the chords. Okay, in terms of the strumming, number 1, it really helps if you know the song. If you've never even heard Stairway to Heaven before, I mean, hey, it's possible, right? Or if you're very vague on how this part of the song goes, it's totally okay, totally okay. But when I'm showing you, I have a lot of hope that you kind of know how the song goes already. I'm going to show you the mechanics. I cannot take you across the finish line in terms of the timing. You have to do that yourself, by listening to the song. I'm gonna play it for you nice and slowly. Okay, so these little tiny D's and U's. Down, down, up, 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 up. And if that's a success, you can add on this optional up, down, up, down. Okay, so that is instructing your strumming hand what direction to go, and at least gives you a chance to get the timing just right. But again, the timing is going to largely come from what your ear is hearing in the song. Okay, here it comes. Remember that first A minor 7 it does have the pinky down on the 1st string 3rd fret. Down, down, up, up. Lift off your pinky for another upstroke. That's that one right there. The A minor with a star, okay? Now I'm going to put that pinky right back where it was for this D suspended. I'm going to give it a single upstroke. And then I'm going to take off the pinky for an upstroke on the D. That's that little bum bum. And I am going to do the optional part right there. Up, down, down, up, down. First line, slow motion. Second line starts off the exact same. Okay. But here comes that E minor. You got it. This is the challenge. You got to get up there so fast. All upstrokes. E minor, D, C, D. So second line without me talking so much. A little bit faster. Ah, so cool. You know, if there's any secret to getting good at this, it's just take it slowly, mechanical, and then musical. I'm gonna copyright that advice. You have to sound mechanical at first. Just hitting a down, hitting an up, moving your pinky, whatever. You know, it's not going to sound the way you want it to sound at first. Play it mechanically, get everything in the right order, and then you'll know when it's time to speed up little bit by little, just little by little, you know. If you speed up and everything falls apart, hey, at least you tried. Slow it down again and start again. Okay, so there you go. What I'm calling part 4 of Stairway to Heaven. I'll say it one more time. During this time frame, it alternates back and forth with part 3 that I taught you 2 weeks ago in Livestream 61, I believe. Okay. We will put all this stuff together, but there you go. All right. Thank you for your attention. May the force be with you. Good luck. You can do it. You can do it. Bruce, thank you for your super chat, Bruce. I really appreciate that. Bruce made a donation for the cause, and I saw Zoologia Zombie. I saw you made a donation, and hey, Bill Collar, you guys are being very generous, and I appreciate that so much. Super chats are how you guys can support what we do here in our guitar community. It's that $ at the bottom of the chat. You click on that, and YouTube will explain everything. Hey, another way you can support what we do is buy yourself a little something, but do it from Sweetwater using the affiliate link. And I'm going to put the affiliate link in the chat. It's always in the description of every live stream, but here it comes. If you click on this link and then shop at Sweetwater, there we go. Sweetwater knows that I sent you. And then they support what we do too. They take a little bit of their profits and send it back to our community here and helps pay the bills. Okay, Willie has a question. Willie says, I have been working on recording a new song on a 12 string. Is there any trick to not accidentally muffling strings on individual string picking? Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, you're for those of you who don't know, 12 string guitars, every string has a neighbor right next to it, and your fretting hand essentially presses down on both at the same time. You can't help it. The neck typically is a little bit wider in this direction to accommodate those strings. And I'm sure it takes a little getting used to fretting that. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't have anything specific in mind. I can tell you that I've done my share of of recording where things are going well until you get to that one, muffled string, that one sound, and you can't live with that, right? You got to go back and do it again. And I know that feeling very well just on 6 strings, and I can only imagine going for something you're proud of and that you want to be preserved for history on a 12 string. I'm sure there's that pressure. And yeah, What I will say, I'll give you the same advice that I've realized myself. Getting warmed up is so important, you know, as opposed to wake up on Sunday morning and saying, oh, I'm going to lay down that 12-string guitar track. I get the impulse to do that, but oh man, the more you can warm up, the better. You know, scales, self-massage, so to speak. I mean, you always want to do a little of that finger massage anyways on your fretting hand, right? Let your picking hand give your fretting hand a good massage. And at the same time, I also know the feeling of, yeah, you're warmed up, you play it, but if you play it 8 times, 10 times, you've been doing the same riff for 40 minutes and things are not working well, then the opposite happens. Like, yeah, you're warmed up, but you're beginning to cramp up, or maybe your skin is kind of clammy. I know mine can get that way. Like, I just feel like I need to wash my hands. It doesn't feel right. I might be getting tension in my hand that should not be there. And that's frustrating too. It's like you want to get it done. You want to get it done before that kicks in. So you want to warm up, do a couple of takes and get it perfect before your hand starts freaking out, you know? So, you know, that's my advice. Be patient with yourself. If you notice it's the same mistake, you know, at every point you get to that same part of the riff and the string is always dead, you know, then that's significant too. Then see if you can figure out why, like what's going on. I know sometimes I will steal a look at my fretting hand when there's like a vulnerable moment like that where something is likely to go wrong, or it could go wrong. I'll memorize whatever the part is. If I'm doing something off a piece of paper, I'll memorize that measure, and I'll still look at my fretting hand, unless it were my right hand that's having the problem. Either way, you still look at your hand, and that, whether it's all in my head or it actually does help me get a better grip, either way, that often solves the issue. I feel more confident that I'm going to get it just right. Will, you're not crazy though in terms of wanting to get it just perfect. I told you guys I finished filming the 30 videos for the 30 songs that are going to be in my Chord-Melody songbook. And I'm not going to lie, some of those songs, the recording went smoother than on others. I have neighbors on the other side of that wall. I have my guitar studio here, and then there's a business on the other side of the wall. And I can assure you, they will never hear a few of these songs the same way ever again. It could be 20 years from now. They're going to hear a certain song on the radio. They'll be like, God, remember when that guitar guy kept playing that over and over again on the other side of the wall? I'm sure I ruined at least one song for them forever. Oh, well, I will say this. When I got it, when I was happy with the final product, I was really happy with it. And now I can laugh about it. I was not laughing at the time, but it's worth it. I mean, literally, you're recording, right? You're recording something for posterity. Yeah, and it's worth it. Yeah, I see that you said you got a really good take yesterday, but it still wasn't perfect. I get it. Yeah, beginner guitar lesson saying rehearsal is key. Yeah. This is getting into more psychology than the physical stuff. But I found myself saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to practice this thing for 15 minutes. I'm not even going to record it. I'm going to play for 15 minutes. And even if I started recording, I would say, if I felt like I wasn't quite ready, but I wanted to see what would happen, I'd say, oh no, I'm not going to get a good take. That's okay. I'm sure this is going to take at least 15, 20 minutes. You know, we're talking about, in some cases, 90 seconds of music. And it's just, yeah. Sometimes it took a lot more than 15 minutes to get a really good take of 90 seconds of music. You can make yourself crazy. Number one, it's worth it. But you got to go easy on yourself. So telling yourself like, oh no, I know I'm gonna waste the next half an hour. That's okay. If you tell yourself that, maybe you won't completely lose it. Scott Rhodes says, it always feels like I've got the song down. I hit record and all the mistakes jump out at me. Yeah. Oh, so let me put my money where my mouth is. I am about to play for you a few pages of a 5-page song that I just finished yesterday. Was it yesterday? I went through these songs alphabetically, the songs in my upcoming book. And alphabetically, the last song was You've Got a Friend from Carole King. So I had a couple challenges here with, now this is my own version of the song, right? Like I wrote this, so I should be able to play it, right? And I can play it, but all it takes is one little string buzz, just something that isn't perfect. And, then you've got a decision on your hands. Are you going to, leave that in? It's not exactly that I'm a perfectionist, because that has such a negative connotation, but I sure, if I'm going to put something out there in the world, like literally recorded, I want it to be halfway decent. Okay, so because this is 5 pages, I'll play you. I can spread out 3 pages, I think, on the music stand. So I'm playing this for you for a couple of reasons. Number one, I hope you buy the book when it comes out, another week or two. Number two, some of you might be saying, what is a chord melody? What does that mean exactly? And you'll hear what we're talking about. Number three, now that I've recorded it, I feel a little bit of the pressure's off. I want to play it great for you. I hope I don't make a mistake, but it's just us, right? What 40? There's 41 of us in the watching right now, but I feel a little bit of the pressure's off. Okay, so chord melody, long story short, and then I'll play it. It's where you hear the melody of the tune when you're down and troubled. Okay, You've Got a Friend, Carole King, also recorded and performed by many people like James Taylor. There's the melody, but I'm also going to insert some chords. So instead of just playing When You're Down, I'm going to go When You're Down. Hear those chords? Chord melody arrangement. So this is my version of You've Got a Friend, Carole King. If I were playing along with her actual song, which is totally doable with all these arrangements, I would have to put the capo at the first fret to be in the same key as her. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, you ready? Of course you are. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Not bad, right? Not bad. I'm not going to make any excuses. That's pretty good, right? Pretty good. I wouldn't save that as a take, right? I almost perfect. Okay, so hopefully you could hear the melody coming through, right? There's no doubt it's You've Got a Friend, but by putting in occasional chord strums on pretty easy chords, you guys. I mean, I was playing like C, A minor, D, some pretty easy stuff. The song is filled out. So I always use the image of a coffee shop, a nice restaurant where someone's playing instrumental guitar, but it doesn't sound thin and empty because they're playing in that style, the chord melody style. You recognize the melody of the tune, and you're hearing those nice supportive harmony sounds, sort of spaced out. I didn't play a chord supporting every single melody note. That's a little bit too much. but every few melody notes, the melody note would include a chord. Extremely fun, I think, to arrange tunes this way. It's a little bit of engineering involved, a lot of decision making, a lot of choices. Anyways, so that is the chord-melody style. What got me? How did I segue into this subject? It's that great question that Willie was talking about, where you go to play something and one, a note comes out dead, and what do you do with that? And how do you avoid that? Oh, I will say this, and then we'll move on. I was using my new guitar for the video, and this ties in. Oh, we'll tie this in with my little teaser before on why you should never play electric guitar. I got better as I went through the alphabet. I got more accustomed to the guitar. I realized the mistakes that I kept making, that I stopped, or I made them less and less as the songs went on. As I recorded song number 11, song number 19, I just got better. And I still made mistakes, but I just realized, hey, wait a minute, songs 20 through 30 went a little bit more smoothly than songs 1 through 20. And it wasn't because they were easier songs. I was getting better at the guitar, better at avoiding mistakes, and so on. Okay, now, why you shouldn't play electric guitar? You guys, surely I'm saying this a little bit tongue-in-cheek, right? Here are some reasons why you should never, ever play electric guitar. Here, make sure I got my notes handy. Okay. And Bill, you kind of got me thinking this way. I believe your exact question when we had our lesson online was, I think it was more like why you should play electric